Hey there, Luminary here, and I thought I would cover some basics of Redstone. Well, for those of you that would like to work with Redstone, I'm going to share with you what I learned, so the information I give you may not necessarily be correct as far as names are concerned, but the mechanics of it are what you should be interested in. So why don't we get started? That is a block. You can power a block with a switch. And what that means is that along each side, when you power a block, it acts as an output just on each side. However, whenever you have stuff that is not directly connected to the block like a torch, it acts as an input. Just to demonstrate that further, anything connected to the block is considered output. Anything that is not directly connected to the block or onto the block like a torch acts as an input. You get the idea. Now, with that being said, let's build another device. And with the same principle that I just showed you, you can take one input and power four outputs. That's the basics of the cube, and I will demonstrate that here. You could pretty much do 3 to 4 things at once. And what I mean by 4 things, even though that torch is up there and it's not doing anything, the cool part about redstone torches is that whenever you have a block on top of it, it will power it also. So now you've got 3 dimensions of using power. The property about the redstone torch that you should be concerned with is that whenever you provide power, it turns off. So that is considered a NOT gate. Just as a review, whenever you provide power to a redstone torch, I want to put that further away, it turns off. Now, if you want something to turn on, what you will need to do is turn this NOT gate into just a regular gate. That is only when you're using redstone torches. You don't need to do this all the time unless you absolutely have to, such as something only happens whenever you flip the power. If it is at a short distance, this is kind of unnecessary. It's pretty much like doing this. There'd be no point in putting that extra step in there if you could just do this. But it is handy to know this, in case you have something where you have an indication, say like a junction in your circuitry, where you need something to turn on when something turns off when it's provided power, to do something different while you're to do multitasking things, like cutting current would be a good one. You could do that. Again, like I said, whenever power is provided to a redstone torch, it turns off. When there's no power provided, it remains in its on state. That's pretty easy stuff to understand, I think. Now, on to splitting out power. Like you saw over here in this example, you can use one block to distribute power in 4 different directions. and that means you can do 4 different things with one switch, which is nice. Now, we're going to continue on, and we're going to build a splitter. And this isn't exactly necessary. This is going to be a NOR gate, which pretty much means that whenever power is provided to the torch up front, it doesn't turn on. So you can make conditionals. If this and this has power, then do this. Or maybe it is, if this or this does not have power, don't do this. I guess that would be the not part about it. And of course, if you want to turn it into something that will do something whenever the lights are on, all you have to do is slap one of these in front of it. So whenever you provide power to both these torches, it'll cut power. That's pretty interesting. So I believe this would be called a... yeah, it would be a NAND gate. And of course, a AND gate would be power to any of those two. No, I'd have to say it's not. If you provide power and it turns something off, it's not. That's the rule. If you provide power to something and it is, then it is just its normal name. And that's how that works. That's an interesting thing that you should understand. You can also do other weird things with this. It's more of a conditional type thing. And if you slap one of these in front of it, then you can pretty much reverse what you're trying to do. So if you, again, for this particular device, when there is no power provided, it turns that torch on and turns that one off. So this effectively becomes a, yeah, this would become a OR gate, not an OR gate, an OR gate. Because if power is provided, then that turns on. Without this, it becomes a NOR gate, which means when power is provided on OR circumstances, then this is not powered. Yeah, I think I got that right. And you can do other things with that too. Why don't we move on to one of the major data holders into Redstone, and that is the RS NOR latch. And there are several different versions of it. I use 2, and it takes up about 9 blocks. So we've got 3 here. We've got, no, well, am I right? Maybe not 9 blocks. I think I end up doing it like this. Something changed, and there seems to need to be a direct connection to everything, which is kind of weird. But the RS NOR latch is something that changes states. We're going to use this button here to prove that. And what I mean by that is that whenever power is provided, you can use this to hold information. If a button is pressed somewhere, it flips this on and does a particular thing. Or it turns off a particular feature over here, such as in my my first Redstone Derping episode, where I showed you that something won't happen if it's in a particular state. So I would go watch that to find out what I'm talking about when that's concerned. And like I said, it ends up being like an on-off switch. If power is provided in a particular area, then it'll flip. And the only way to flip it back is to provide power in the other area. Now there's an exception, and it becomes a pulsar. And I learned this particular one, and it's kind of neat. And you can use it to constantly provide power to a device. And I don't mean constant as in like, it pulses constantly, I should say. So we will do this because I need to slow it down or else you'll burn out the torches. But as you can see, it will just pulse and pulse and pulse and pulse, and you can do all kinds of weird stuff with that. Why don't we show what's going on with that then? And of course, with some other circuitry, such as a switch, you can completely turn it off. Or you can constantly provide power so that it stays extended. Depends on what your needs are. I'm going to leave that extended so that way we don't have to worry about it making noise while I'm trying to talk. So that's what we have. I've showed you how redstone works, how power is provided and distributed. I should probably tell you how the redstone dust works. That would be handy. Redstone dust only provides power horizontally. What I mean by that is that you can only put it on one plane, and you can use it to crawl over things. So if this block is powered in any particular way, you're actually powering all the redstone. Well, I assume. Yep, sure enough, there it is. So whenever you power a block, you can actually move redstone from one side of the block to the other, or to a different direction, such as, we'll just do it this way. See? And that only works because you have redstone crawling up the side. So horizontally, meaning that it has to be adjacent. And if it's coming through the block, it's going to power the block, which will power the redstone on top. So it's really only moving on two different planes, which is really neat. And I mean that in the sense that if that goes away, you're only powering through the block. See what I mean? It doesn't go up the block and power that block. Or even better, as a better explanation, you can't do anything with that either. So that's how redstone works. Redstone torches, if I remember correctly, whenever you use them, you can use that. If I remember correctly, you can use that to... Well, nope, it's still only one. You can use it to directly power something above it. So that's something handy to know if you want something to crawl up. This is how you move power vertically, and the best demonstration of that would be something that looks like this. You know, and I decided to build this stuff on the fly as opposed to having demos ready, just so you can see how it works. That, and you can see how it's built. That would be the most important thing for folks that want to work with redstone. So whenever power is provided, power crawls up this ladder and changes the states of all the torches. So you can actually use that to turn it to a functioning or a not functioning. What I mean by that is whenever power is provided, you can either turn something on or turn something off. So that's something to consider. And the other thing about redstone wire that you need to be concerned about is, let's see if I can actually place a block on the front here. Yes, I can. Is that redstone wire or redstone dust, I keep calling it wire, redstone dust can travel down. So you can take from here and power all the way down. So now you know how to make power go vertically and how to drop it. Yeah, make power go vertically, up and down. That is something very handy to know for any project that you might have to do when you go to stacking circuits. And that's really the only way I can think of doing anything like that. Storage facility I probably could have optimized by stacking circuits so it didn't take up as much space. Even the cart arrays, I was thinking about that later, and I could have stacked the arrays and made the building much smaller. But it looked cool. Large is impressive. Let's see here. The other cool thing about pulsars right here is that there is another kind that is most frequently known, and that requires 5 blocks and you build it like so, with all the torches facing the blocks. And I say that as a rule of thumb, so that way you can see how the data flows, or the power flows. And whenever you build something like this, and it has to be an odd number, it becomes a pulsar, just like this right over here. And I'll demonstrate that now. Pretty much the same thing, this just takes up less space. And the beautiful part about this particular circuit is that if it does reset, then it'll start itself back up again, which is really nice. This, on the other hand, I think it continues. I'm not sure. I have to fly 200 blocks away. And the same thing applies to this too when you provide power to something. You can stop. You can stop the pulsing. And then, of course, when power is taken away, it'll start up again. So you can use that for different applications. I'm not exactly sure what. I haven't come up with anything, but this is a very important thing to know if you want something to be provided intermittent power. Yeah, that's pretty neat, I think. A lot of the redstone stuff that you see will be based on just a few things, such as this piece right here. The RS NOR latch is one of the big ones when it comes to holding data. And, of course, pulsars. You can start pulsars, you know, using all of this stuff. And knowing how energy flows, or power flows within the redstone world, is handy to know. Another interesting thing that you need to know is that when it comes to floor buttons, let me find one. Floor button. I had to change my resolution so everything is not in the same place. I remember it. Ah, here we go. We'll use a pressure plate to get rid of the sand. Something interesting that you need to know about pressure plates when people step over them. So you can make traps this way, which is really nice. Oops, not that one. I need this one, and then, of course, that one, and here. Up, up, up. You know what? Let's make it look like a trap, because traps are awesome. How about that? Well, maybe not. I ain't gonna get that intricate. If I start doing that, this is gonna take forever. And I'm sure you are totally not interested in what I'm talking about. Actually, if you're watching this, you are interested in what I'm talking about, so I'm not even gonna kid myself on that. Okay, when it comes to pressure plates. Whenever a pressure plate is activated, the redstone underneath is activated as well. So that is something handy to know. Power travels downward from the dot above to redstone below, and that also means that that will be the same. So it doesn't necessarily have to be connected. So blocks can actually transmit power downwards. That is another interesting thing you need to know. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to try to release some really cool devices I think that could help people, and stuff that you can build on a budget. And what I mean is you could build a survival without much effort. And again, I will lay out everything as you see it here, so it's easy to understand what's going on, so that way you can stack the circuits yourself. Well, I'm Luminary, and I'll see you next time.